To the American public, Wyatt Earp is a hero of the West, remembered as the serene and dignified lawman bringing justice to the OK Corral. But decades after his death, his penniless widow, Josephine, spent her twilight years fighting publishers and threatening lawsuits to kill books about their tombstone days. She dedicated the end of her life to scrubbing the historical record clean, trying to erase the very events that made her husband an American icon. Josephine lived outside the expectations of a traditional frontier wife. The reality of their 40 years together involved gambling, hustling, and a string of secrets that threatened to destroy the pristine legacy of a national hero. To keep the legend of Wyatt Earp intact, Josephine became an active censor, burying the evidence of her own messy, vibrant past. Born to Prussian Jewish immigrants who worked as bakers, Josephine Marcus grew up in the booming metropolis of 1870 San Francisco. She hated school and rejected the traditional domestic path her parents expected. Instead, she followed the bright lights of the stage, running away to join a traveling theater troupe performing the musical HMS Pinafore. By the time she arrived in the violent frontier town of Tombstone in December 1879, her independence and striking looks immediately drew attention. She caught the eye of a local politician named Johnny Behan and moved in with him. Behan carried a dark reputation. His ex-wife had recently divorced him, citing his physical abuse and frequent visits to local brothels. Rumors quickly surrounded Josephine's own activities. Historians still debate whether she was secretly working as a prostitute under the alias Sadie Mansfield, or if she was a woman doing what was necessary to survive in a town where men outnumbered women 9-1. Her arrival and romantic choices placed a fiercely independent woman at the center of a political powder keg. Wyatt Earp lived in Tombstone alongside his own common-law wife, Celia Maddie Blaylock. Sometime in the summer of 1881, Josephine and Wyatt began a secret affair. This betrayal poured gasoline on an already volatile situation. Behan and Earp were already running a fierce political campaign against each other to become the first sheriff of Cochise County. The personal jealousy over Josephine turned a professional rivalry into a bitter, permanent grudge. The gunfire that erupted at the OK Corral represented the bloody boiling point of this personal and political feud. In the immediate aftermath, Earp embarked on a vendetta ride to avenge his brother's murder. But once the dust settled, he slipped away to San Francisco, where he and Josephine secretly reunited to begin a new life together. Their escape left a trail of hidden collateral damage. Wyatt completely abandoned his first wife, Maddie. Left destitute, she returned to prostitution and eventually suffered a fatal overdose of laudanum. Josephine harbored immense guilt over her role in Maddie's downfall. That embarrassment became the driving force behind her lifelong crusade to erase the Tombstone years from the public record. Instead of settling into the quiet retirement of a lawman, Wyatt and Josephine spent the next 40 years as nomads, chasing fortunes and opening saloons across Utah, Colorado, and Nevada. When the gold rush hit Alaska, they moved north to the beaches of Nome. Wyatt opened a profitable saloon called the Dexter, complete with custom-built upstairs rooms for prostitutes. The couple shared a compulsive gambling habit. They routinely wagered huge sums of gold dust on high-stakes poker and bet heavily on horse racing. In December 1896, Wyatt entered the national spotlight again when he refereed a heavyweight boxing match between Tom Sharkey and Bob Fitzsimmons. Earp stepped into the ring still wearing his gun hidden under his coat. He called a controversial foul on the favored winner, Fitzsimmons, and handed the victory to Sharkey. Newspapers across the country accused Earp of corruption, dragging his Tombstone past back into the headlines. For 40 years, their partnership relied on the same opportunistic gambling and saloon keeping that drove them from the mining camps of the West to the beaches of the North. As they grew older, the culture of the United States shifted. Prohibition took hold, gambling was outlawed, and the frontier survival skills that once kept them alive were reclassified as criminal offenses. Josephine realized the 20th century world would never accept a hero who ran frontier brothels, abandoned his first wife, and married his political enemy's lover. She launched a final campaign to curate their history. She successfully buried the messy truth, leaving behind a carefully crafted legend that was eventually immortalized by Hollywood. So much so that famous Western actors like William S. Hart stepped in to pay for her funeral. The gunfight at the OK Corral was born from a human love story. By curating her husband's legacy and burying a messy reality, Josephine successfully authored the myth